All right, so welcome to week 4, and we've been progressing along pretty well, I think. If you guys are having any trouble at all following along, please send me email questions. But today is not going to be very long, so let's get to the theme song, come back, and get started. Hopefully, you guys can grab your syllabus and grab your books or whatever you need to grab for the class. Look at your lesson plan, and we'll get started, and we'll jump into it right away. Come on back after the theme song. All right, so it's week 4, and what we have on the course outline is very basic. Now, it may sound like I'm speaking fast, and that's because I am, because today is February the 24th. Number 24 is coming to town, Kobe Bryant. It's the last game that the Lakers are going to play the Memphis Grizzlies with Kobe Bryant as a Laker. So I'm rushing a little bit, and I feel kind of bad because I'm rushing, and I'm not going to give this a whole lot of time. I really should be doing it as a Google Hangout, but we have basically 5 different sections that we're going to look at today, and that's going to be the idea of a brainstorm and a creation. Why is budgeting the most important thing? What about percentages versus money? Projections, marketing, and brainstorm, divide, and conquer. Now, that brainstorm, divide, and conquer section really leads us into the following week where we're going to talk about understanding our own strengths. But for this week, we got brainstorm and creation. Why is budgeting the most important thing? What about percentages versus money? Projections, and marketing. So let's get into it. Brainstorm and creation. You may have something that you're really interested in, and for the sake of time and for the sake of the class just being pretty straightforward, we're going to look at a business because this is building a business from zero that you can start with a minimal amount of money. And I think that business that everyone can actually jump into is blogging. Okay. But, well, you know what? Yeah, blogging. Everybody can sit down and create a blog. Now, I'm going to be posting a video that shows you how to create content for a blog after this one. So make sure you tune in for that. But brainstorming creation, since we're brainstorming right now, we're not going to do, we could do consulting, um, we could do blogging, we could do a home-based business that's based on you actually clearing out things that are in your house and selling them on eBay. That's a business. These are things that we can do that don't cost us a whole lot of money. But because we're going to get deep into it and brainstorm and talk about it, then we're going to talk about money and everything that could possibly be spent on blogging. So let's get into it. Blogging is our topic of discussion. Okay. Let me make sure you can see what I'm doing here. So, all right, good. You can see blogging is our topic of discussion. And on our course outline, it says brainstorming creation. Why is budgeting the most important thing is the next question. Well, this is the thing. With blogging, you have several different things that you can do. Okay. You can run a free blog or a hosted blog. Now, what I mean by hosting is, in the previous weeks, I said you should sign up for a website, get your website. If you pay for hosting, then obviously that's what I mean by a hosted blog. There are several different blogging platforms that you can use, and I'm going to write those platforms underneath here. And that is platforms. We're going to have one. Let's go with WordPress. 2, Blogger. Now, these two are kind of the standards for blogging. This is what a lot of people use for blogging. So it's kind of common knowledge and common use. Now, there are other platforms out there that you can use, and I'll start with those, and those are going to be based on someone else's website. So you got Medium, okay? You now have what are called Facebook Notes, right? You can, if you can get onto a different platform, you can blog. There's different micro blogging sites, and believe it or not, Twitter is a micro blogging site. Twitter is micro blogging. Okay. But what we're going to look at for our purposes, because we're starting a business from zero, we're going to look at the free platform. And we're going to look at either WordPress or Blogger. Okay. Now, here's the thing. With WordPress, if you pay for hosting on WordPress, sorry about the squeaking, I'm turning back and forth in my chair. If you pay for hosting on WordPress, then the great thing about WordPress is that you can actually monetize that blog. Okay. A free blog or a blogger, interestingly enough, you can set up a blogger. If you have a Google account, then you can set up a blogger. And with that blogging account on Google, you can actually apply for Google AdSense, which will allow you to monetize that blog. All right. But if you're using WordPress and you're setting it up, then it's pretty straightforward. Okay. So we're going to look at WordPress and Blogger. Let me erase this, and I'm going to move down to the next question. And I may try to double up and do two different things here and do blogging and consulting. So I'm going to put consulting over here and do a slash. But right now, this is pretty straightforward. You can always rewind it and go back and look at what I wrote up here before. But our next question, that's our brainstorm section. So why is budgeting the most important thing? Now, if you're starting a free website, budgeting is not that big of a deal to you, because all you have to do is sit down and take your time. And what you're investing is minutes and hours into your blog and laying it out and setting it up. So budgeting is not that important. All right. But let's say you do pay for a hosted blog, then you're going to have to put into your budget for that blog $150. This is no longer building from zero, but that's if you're doing a hosted blog. So you have to account for that, and this is going to pay for your hosting. Okay, so you have your web host. Once you pay for that web host, if you go to the book, I have a section in 1 Hour to Wealth where it talks about pulling down the index.html page. Well, Troy Johnson did a fantastic job of presenting that information on how to turn your WordPress into your blogging page. Now, if you're doing it for free, you don't have a budgeting issue. But because I put this on the course outline in regard to budgeting, why is budgeting the most important thing, I have to talk about it. Now, with consulting, interestingly enough, you don't have any kind of fees at all. You possibly only need to buy yourself business cards, and you go to Vistaprint and pay $10 for 500 business cards. So there's not much fees associated with consulting at all. So you can get started immediately. But when we look at the idea of things being free, or when we have to talk about the budgeting aspect of it, is I did a video called My Big Mistake. And for about 4 years, my first year in business was 2011, when I transitioned from selling on the street and selling at flea markets and stuff like that. My first year started in 2011, in November of 2011 to December of 2011. At that point, I made $60,000. That's when I decided to quit my job. So when I quit my job, 2012, I made $450,000. So I made that amount of money. I didn't have a business account. I had a personal account. I didn't understand a whole lot of things. And I talk about this in another video, and it's called My Big Mistake. And it's very important that you go back and watch that video. But the reason I bring up the importance of budgeting is because you're going to get to a point where you're going to have to spend some money on your business. All right. So we're building a business from zero, but you're going to get to a point where you have to spend some money on your business. So you're going to have to keep a budget. Now, in week 2, I put up the monthly projection sheet. What I need to do now is basically either you're going to have to use Excel or some software program to keep track of your expenses, because you need to know what you're spending. And every now and then what will happen is, if you're a consulting person, let's say you drive to an event and that costs you $10. Now that seems like it's nothing. But if you drive to that event twice in a week, you're now at $20. Now the same thing with a blog. If you're sitting in and you spend about 4 to 5 hours, even though you're not spending your own money, that is time that you have to account for, and that should be budgeted in as well. Because I mean, you're really giving yourself a whole lot of time. But in this instance with consulting, it's $20 for this. Now the admission may be $10. Okay. And you pay $10 to get into whatever event it is for this consulting thing where you're networking and you're making these contacts. Now, by the time you get your first consultation, you're already $40 in the hole. And let's say you want to book your consultation, you give the person 30 minutes free, and then after that they have to pay $30 for an hour, right? Well, you're still -10 in the hole in that business. That means you got to get a second consultation for $30 for an hour. All right. So it's very important that you budget and keep track of everything that you're doing in regard to your expenses. You have to keep track of that stuff. And if you don't, it can catch up with you later on. Percentages versus money. Now, what I've been doing up here, I'm just talking about quick stuff and doing budgeting. Percentages versus money. A lot of the time you hear people say things like, oh, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to double my money. Very unrealistic. In the stock market, the average in the stock market, I'm going to put SM for stock market, the average return is between 2 and 4%. Now, you have some stocks that may give you a whole lot more money back. Dr. Boyce Watkins is a great person to go and look at his video channel and sign up for his classes because he does a lot with the stock market. He talks about it. I can't go into great detail because that's not my job. I'm just giving you numbers here in percentages versus money because a lot of people will look at things and say, I'm going to double my money. It's very hard to double your money in anything, okay? And it's not a very realistic thing to do, which is to look at your business and say that you're going to double your money. I mean, it just doesn't happen, okay? So in the stock market, you may get 2 to 4%. Let's say a savings account, SA, savings account, your percentage is going to probably be about 1% at the most. So you're going to get back maybe 1% on a savings account, right? So a savings account gives you 1% back. If you're buying something wholesale, you have to factor in shipping and everything else. More than likely, you're only going to get between 10 to 50% return on your money. Doubling your money is not a reality. So when I put this on this course outline and I said percentages versus money, what I want you guys to think about is looking at your investments, looking at the things that you're placing time into. If I put 8 hours into my consulting business, then my goal is to possibly try to what? Get 30% back on my time. So if I say I'm a consultant and my time is worth $30 an hour, 8 hours is going to be $240. If I've invested that amount of time, 8 hours, what I want to do is say I'm going to get back 30% on my time, right? So 30% of 8 hours or $240 is pretty straightforward. That's not a hard one, right? So let's see, 240 times 0.30 is $72. All right. So if I spend 8 hours on something, I need to make back $72. Now that's a rough kind of estimate. It's very rough math. I'm rushing a little bit, but I think you get what I'm saying. If I'm spending a certain amount of hours on something, I need to account for those hours that I'm spending, okay? Because that time is important and it's an investment in your business. So you can start looking at your percentages of what you're getting back on what you're doing. So with blogging, it's going to be a little bit different because if you wake up and do a blog every day for 30 minutes, you post a blog and you share it. You spend that 30 minutes, you probably did a little bit of research before you wrote your article or whatever you're sitting down to share. And you have to ask yourself, how much am I paying myself as a blogger? So you have to account for that time as well. All right. So that's, I want you to think about these things, percentages. Think about percentages versus thinking about money. Projections. I gave you guys a projection sheet so you can look out 6 months ahead and think about what you're going to possibly be making. Now, it could be 6 months from now as a blogger or as a consultant that you don't make a single dime. The possibility is always there. But you could possibly hit on something big and you could start earning money and buy hosting and become a full-time blogger. You don't know. You never know, but you have to put the time in to do it. Now, marketing. This is going to be very quick. Marketing is very difficult. There are a lot of different ways you can go about it. You can pay for marketing, or you can spend time developing your own plans for marketing. But marketing is very difficult, okay? And I honestly say when you're starting out, you should look at the different avenues and different things that you can do. But this last part is not going to be quick. I take that back. What a lot of people are doing is they're saying, I'm going to use social media. And my thing about social media now is that if you're not doing something that's truly a social kind of thing, it's very hard to get traction from social media. That means if you're doing music, then definitely go for it and use marketing, use social media as a marketing tool. But what you should really spend your time on, I think personally, is building up platforms that will eventually pay you. So instead of spending a lot of time on marketing, work on developing the platform that you're using and get that platform tight. Make it so good that when the time comes for you to gain market share, that everything is ready for you to gain market share. All right. So I think it's somewhat counterproductive to continuously give away what you're doing. If you're building on your own platform, you're not giving it away. You're going to be able to collect emails or potentially ad revenue and other things. All right. So today was basically a lecture. I'm going to start wrapping it up here. And I know it wasn't a whole lot of instruction, but I'm going to add a separate video. I appreciate you guys for watching this. I know it's like 14 minutes. I apologize for the length. I said it was going to be quick. It's not so quick. You can subscribe down here at the bottom. And I'll see you guys next week. And I promise I'll be a lot more focused. All right. Kobe Bean Bryant. Peace, y'all.